What is going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Mike Roach Show. On the agenda today, RJ Barrett. That's what we are speaking about today. That's what we are going to discuss. One RJ Barrett, because there has been so much discussion about RJ Barrett being on the trade market. We know there's issues with his contract, and by issues, I mean he has a big payday coming in the near future, and the Raptors need some flexibility. That's primarily why we're hearing about RJ in regards to trades. But let's talk about some other things. Let's talk about how he's been this season, his stats over the few seasons he's been here, pros and cons of his game, and then we'll go over specifically once again about why RJ Barrett has been talked about so much in regards to trade. If that is a good thing or a bad thing, you don't really care. Let's discuss. Let's discuss, because there are so many things that we have to talk about. First of all, I mentioned, what is the first thing that you think about when you think about RJ Barrett? I'll give you a second. Now, for me, what I think about RJ Barrett, this is what I think about immediately when it comes to RJ. Dog. Just a flat out dog. And we need a guy like RJ Barrett. Now, I'm going on the record. I do not want RJ Barrett traded. I'm just going to put it out there on Front Street. For those who have listened to me on a regular basis, I'm pretty sure that you've heard me say that before. I don't understand all the RJ Barrett talk unless you're talking about something that's contractual with the money, right? To me, that's the only reason why you would do so. And I would look to kind of even circumvent that. Jakob Poeltl, on the other hand, in regards to getting rid of money and cutting salary, that's a different story for another day, and we can talk about that at some point. But when it comes to basketball, when it comes to RJ Barrett and how he affects his team, what he does for Ingram, what he does for Scotty, how he opens it up a bit more for Quickly, we're going to get into these things and talk about all of this. Now, how has RJ been so far this season? RJ so far this season is doing exactly what RJ does, damn it. Okay, he's consistent. He does his job. And listen, he's not a great shooter. He's not a great ball handler. He's not great defensively. He's not super athletic. But he does all of those things good enough to make a big impact for this team. He's a dog. He's a bucket getter. He puts pressure on that defense. And like I've mentioned to you before, there is something that RJ has that a lot of players don't in the league. He's got big cojones. Big cojones. He's not afraid of the moment. That is the main thing. That is the main thing. I'm getting worked up now, damn it. That is the main thing. RJ Barrett is never afraid of the moment. It doesn't matter what part of the game it is. The more the game goes along and the game is tight, he wants that shot. He ain't going to be afraid going to the basket. He wants to put in that work. He doesn't shy away. That is what I love most about RJ Barrett. Now, whether it's shooting, whether it's getting in the lane, rebounding, creating, he does all of these things at a pretty good level. And let me ask you a question, because we've seen a big enough sample size now at this point. How do you feel about the Raptors going into a game? Whether it be a good or bad team, doesn't matter. How do you feel about the Raptors going into a game when RJ is playing compared to when he's not? How do you feel about the team when RJ is in the lineup compared to when he's not? He makes a big difference. All of them do. This is a team that has to win by committee. And to me, there's, when I look at Barrett, Barnes, Ingram, you got three guys, versatile, can shoot the ball, can get to the basket, can rebound, can create, good defensively. Scotty Barnes is great defensively. He's getting to another level when it comes to that. But you got three big guys who are versatile. You're going to need that against a Boston, a Detroit. Do you know the Raptors are currently sitting right now at third in the East? They just overtook the New York Knicks. What has happened to the New York Knicks? What has happened to the New York Knicks? I haven't seen a bunch of their games over the last like 10 or 15 games. What has happened to them? If anybody here sees this and you're in New York and you follow the Knicks, please get in the comments for me and let us know what is going on with the Knicks right now. Something's happening. But anyway, the Raptors currently sitting at third in the Eastern Conference. This is a playoff team. We need size. We need strength at those forward guard positions. RJ Barrett fits that bill alongside Barnes and Ingram. He does. And so we're going to look at some pros and his cons. But before we get there, let's discuss some of the numbers for RJ Barrett. So let me share my screen with you. We'll go to NBA.com. Let me change this, make it like, wait, the other way looks a bit better, to be honest. Made my screen a bit bigger. Anyway, let's just go back here. Okay, so we're going to look at some of these numbers over the years for RJ Barrett. We can even go back to when he was a rookie. 56 games, okay, 14 points. Blah, blah, blah. We don't need to go that far. Let's go into his second year. Let's not count the rookie year. All right, 17 points. He was giving you 4 rebounds, 3 assists. And we're going to keep it pretty, surface based. We're not going to get too much into advanced analytics and all that kind of stuff because it's important that we use the eye test as well, even though, numbers are very important. But look at some of the numbers here. 26 games for the Knicks that year, 23-24 comes over to the Raptors. He plays 32 games for the Raptors when he got traded here during that season. Gave you 21.8 points per game. Also gave you 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Overall in that season, he gave you 20 points a game. Gave you 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Last season, 32 minutes, gave you 21 points a game. Gave you 6 rebounds, 5 assists. And now currently in this season, even though he's only played 25 games because he has missed a bunch of games, obviously, with his injuries, you're still looking at 19 points a game from RJ Barrett, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. And I'm sure that number would be higher if he was playing consistently. But you look at his turnovers have been the lowest that they have been since he has had an improved, I wouldn't say an improved role, but since he's had a significantly more important role with what he's been doing in the lineup. Now, let's look at some of his other numbers here. Now, field goal attempts per game, 14 this season, which I think you would see more, like I mentioned, but almost 50% from the field, 35%, 34.8% to be exact from three-point range, 68% from the free throw line. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But from a numbers perspective, considering how many times RJ Barrett now has been in and out of the lineup, if RJ Barrett is in your lineup consistently, we see how he affects the game, right? We see how he affects the game. It matters. It matters how much pressure that you put on the defense. And to have a lefty, now, any of you who have played, who have coached, you know how sometimes you have a lefty, whether you're playing against one, you are the lefty, you're coaching against one. You see how we can kind of throw things off with the defense going strong to the left. It's weird for defenders. And I like having that kind of mixed up into the lineup. I think that's important as well. Sometimes it's, he goes to the left a bit more often. You want to see him switch and go to the right, especially when they're cutting it off. But he has improved in that regard, going to his right hand, using it a little bit more, because at one point his right was non-existent at all. Now he'll actually go to the right, and it's a bit better finishing in the paint than he used to be. So overall, RJ's numbers are pretty good. You'll see that in time, if he is healthy and he gets his legs under him, gets his breath back, because he's still only been back for just a few games, right? When you see those things transpire, and we will see them soon, and he's healthy and playing consistently, barring he doesn't get traded at the deadline, I think he makes a massive, massive difference in the lineup for the Raptors. And so when it comes to RJ, what are some of the things that he does really, really well? And what are some of the things that you want to see him improve on? Some of the things that you don't necessarily like to see when RJ Barrett is out there. Let's go to cons first, and then we'll come back and we'll go to pros. Some of the cons of his game: not a consistent shooter, streaky. I can live with that. I can live with that. Okay. But yes, we do have to put an emphasis on that. 34.8% from 3-point range, like I just showed you, 68% from the free throw line. That to me has to change. That to me has to change, especially if we're talking about RJ Barrett going to the free throw line. If the ball is in his hands at the end of games, we got to be able to trust you at the end of the game to make free throws. So that is key. That's going to be important. And yes, we do want to see RJ Barrett improve from the free throw line, and I'm sure he can and will. At least I expect him to. I expect him to. He's got to do some work on making those free throws, especially in those big games down the stretch. Also, at times, what's another thing I don't like about RJ Barrett? And I'm being a little bit nitpicky here, but if we're going to talk about this, let's talk about it for real and break some of these things down, right? Like, we got to look for the truth here. The truth matters.
Want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Now, one other thing that I see about RJ is that sometimes he's out of control in transition. Goes into transition. He's going one-on-one. Sometimes he'll go up against 2 or 3 guys. And listen, I love it that he's being aggressive, but you also got to make smart decisions at the same time. You want to be under control. You want to make sure that you're getting good shot attempts, right? You got to pick and choose your battle at times. And sometimes you want the higher percentage shot, even if it means you're in transition, you want to bulldoze your way to the rim, but you got to back it back out sometimes. You got to come back, set your offense up, and run something that gets you a higher percentage shot. So that's another thing. Another thing, sometimes he fails to make that extra pass too often sometimes. Too often sometimes. That ball's got to move. The ball's got to move. It cannot stick. Yes, you may be open with a guy who's about 5 feet away from you, but you can make that extra pass to somebody whose guy might be around 8 feet from him. Whoever it might be, whether it's a guy like Grady Dick, Jamal Shed, whoever the hell it may be. You got to make sure you're making that extra pass when you need to, if it creates a better look for the offense. The last thing I'm going to say about Barrett, I want to see more effort defensively. And I thought he's been doing a better job defensively, to be quite honest with you. But I still want to see more of that effort defensively. And I'm not necessarily talking about keeping his man in front of him. I think he's improved there. What I want to see is making better reads in regards to maybe double teaming somebody on the opposition, help defense, diving on loose balls, giving a hard foul if you need to, not injuring somebody, but giving a nice hard playoff foul if you need to do that. But when it's a loose ball, defensively, I need you to dive on that. I need you to dive on that, okay? Like a fat kid on a chocolate cake at a birthday party. Not discriminating, against anybody. I'm just saying. It's an analogy. Maybe not a good one. But anyway, you see what I'm saying here. You got to be all over those loose balls. tough, hard fouls if you need to, good, smart reads when it comes to help defense. All of these things matter. All of these things matter. Okay. Now, those are some of the cons of his game. And I want to get to some of the pros. But before I get to some of the pros in regards to what he can do on the court, there are other certain things that matter as well. Is he coachable? If you're Darko Rajakovic, is he coachable? How does he treat his teammates? What is his body language like on the court? Is he always whining and complaining? Now, the first one, is he coachable? Absolutely. Absolutely. You know RJ Barrett is coachable. When have you ever seen RJ or heard of RJ being a headache? Never. Never. Does he complain? What is his body language like? RJ's always hype when he's out there. He's always hype when he's out there. The body language is he's always ready to kill when he's out there. RJ Barrett is aggressive. He's rough. He's rugged. He's always ready to go. How does he treat his teammates? Who the hell have we ever heard say RJ Barrett was a bad teammate? We have never heard anyone say that. We have never heard anyone say that. All of these things are a good sign. And to be completely honest with you, I'm going to drop a bomb for Darko Rajakovic. You know why? Because the vibe, even though things don't always necessarily go your way, and I'm talking about in regards to injuries, right? Having guys in and out the lineup. Darko has done a really good job this season with making adjustments like Jack Armstrong talked about a couple days ago when he was on the show. And if you haven't already seen that episode, make sure that you go check that out. But he's been really good at being adaptable. And one thing is the vibe. The vibe seems immaculate with the players that we have. The vibe seems really, really good with the players that we have. And so when we're talking about all this trading, yes, I'm going to get to some of you, or I'll get to you guys with some facts about the contract and stuff like that in just a second. But chemistry matters. And what did we talk about earlier in the show? We talked about a team like the New York Knicks. Ladies and gentlemen, chemistry matters. We have now pushed ahead of the New York Knicks. We're only a half game behind the Boston Celtics in the standings. We could be second in the East in the next few days. Second in the Eastern Conference. This is supposed to be the second year of a rebuild for the Raptors. Second year of a rebuild for the Raptors. They can be in second place in the Eastern Conference. And with that being said, Darko Rajakovic has to now be in the running for Coach of the Year. He has to be in the running for Coach of the Year. Now, obviously, he's not going to get it, especially when you look at what is going on with the Detroit Pistons. But, yes, you do have to say that at this point, Rajakovic is in the running for Coach of the Year with what he's doing. He has handled this nicely. You don't have a center. You don't have a center at all. You're playing all your forwards at center. He's been out of the lineup. Barrett's been out of the lineup. Murray Boyle's out of the lineup. Jacoby Walter out of the lineup. Ingram as well has been out of the lineup. Not as much as these other guys, but there's been a bunch of people with the Raptors throughout the season who have been out of the lineup. We got to give credit where it's due for Rajakovic. We're not saying that everything he's going to do is going to be perfect. Who is it ever like that with? Nobody does everything perfectly all the time. You're going to have issues with the way that he does some things. I get it. We're going to criticize people negatively, but can we give credit when it's due? That's all I'm saying. Can we give credit where it's due? Guys, this is professional sports, gals as well. For those of you who are watching, this is professional sports. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's very easy for us to criticize when we're sitting on the sidelines at home and on the couch. It's not easy. I'm telling you. You're looking at somebody who's been around Scotiabank Arena for the past 12 years. I'm telling you, seeing these guys in person is a lot different than what you see on television. These guys are mammoth human beings. They're fast. They're strong. They're smart. The game is, guys, I promise you, the game is ridiculously fast. Ridiculously fast. When you see what these guys are capable of and what they can do on a basketball court, when you're watching up close and personal, I mean, TV is great. Don't get me wrong, because you're nice and comfortable watching these games. But when you see what these guys can do on the court, how big they are and how fast they move, how aggressive, how strong defensively these guys are, I promise you guys, I promise you, what the Raptors are doing this season is incredible. It's incredible, considering that most people didn't even have these guys making the playoffs. And by most people, I'm talking about all the, analysts out there outside of Toronto, even some that are here, but especially the ones outside who have never watched the Toronto Raptors at all, who said they were going to be absolutely horrible. The Bill Simmons of the world and some of these other guys. I'll use him because he has that the famous clip online saying, this team's just going to be awful and blah, 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 blah. And when I did the show with Rob Pensari, I think I said the Raptors, what did I say? I think I said they were going to have 47 wins. And I think Rob said they were going to go for 49 or 50 wins or something like that. They're on pace. They're absolutely on pace. But I'm going to go back to RJ Barrett here because I'm getting a bit off track. Coaching, how is he coachable? Yes. How he treats his teammates? Very good. We've talked about that already. All of these things matter. And what I was trying to get to is when it comes to all this talk about trading RJ Barrett, it better be because it's a contract thing and not because of basketball. And even so, is there a way that we can circumvent that? Because I'm telling you right now, you got to be very careful what you wish for. I'm going to repeat that. Sometimes you got to be very careful what you wish for. And I'll leave it at that in regards to trading RJ Barrett. Now, I understand you may have to do so because, like I mentioned, at some point we'll talk about Jakob Poeltl. But let's go here. Pros of his game. RJ gets buckets, damn it. RJ gets buckets. And you know what? I'm going to add this back to the stage. And we'll talk about this just a little bit more when it comes to his numbers, because how does he get buckets? Shooting, getting into the paint, transition. Okay? He's physical. He knows how to use his size. He's tough. And he does create for his teammates as well. Like I mentioned, 5.4 assists last season, just 3.6 this season. But I just think that has to do with not being in the lineup consistently. I think that's a big part of it. Gives you some rebounds, but he gets buckets. Now, RJ, when it comes to getting buckets, physical, can bulldoze his way to the rim, can pull up and shoot it from mid-range. Yes, he gets to the free throw line and he needs to shoot better from the free throw line. I understand that. Not terrible from three-point range, and he's always willing to take that shot. But also from an offensive standpoint, he can break the defense down and kick it out and create for others. in transition, he will push that ball up the floor and kick it out to guys running the lanes in transition alongside him. He doesn't lose confidence. He doesn't lose confidence, and he won't shy away from the contact. He's willing to draw the fouls, which we need, because you want to see the opposition have to, kind of pick and choose their battles and be a bit more, or I should say a bit less aggressive due to foul trouble, because RJ is going into you. Doesn't shy away from big moments. That is so important. I told you guys already what my pet peeve is, and a lot of you guys know this. It's being scared when you're out there. When you're out on the basketball court or in any sport. This doesn't just have to do with basketball. This has to do with any sport. Maybe it's just a life lesson in general. You can't always be timid. At some point, you're going to have to grow a set. And RJ has no issues with that. RJ is never, he is a player that is never afraid when he's out there. You see, for me, when you're wide open and you're about to take a shot, it's always better to be wide open, take the shot and miss, than to be wide open and pass it up. I don't do that. That is just one thing that I cannot tolerate.
It's completely BS. This is shame. Shame for the referees, shame for the league to allow this.
That is just not acceptable. And you don't have to ever worry about that. Trust me, with RJ Barrett. You ain't never got to worry about that. And like I mentioned, at the end of the games, I've said this a bunch of times already. That's what we're looking for. Even if he's not your first option, if the ball comes to him, you don't have to worry about that. Now, let's get to the end of this thing, because I'm going to wrap this thing up here. In regards to RJ Barrett, okay, printed some things off here, just strictly in regards to his contract. Now, people are saying, for those who don't understand the money and the contracts and all that kind of stuff, I'm sure a lot of you already do, because a lot of you who are really consistent in my comments and who I speak to all the time, we discuss a bunch of different things, but there may be some people who don't have as much knowledge when it comes to the money and the contracts and that kind of stuff. So I do want to read some things off. I've got a few points here that I'll read this word for word, by the way. Because it's just stuff that I printed off that might be some good information for some people who want to understand. Now, extension eligibility and cap constraints. Now, RJ Barrett becomes extension eligible in the offseason following this year, but the Raptors' existing high-value contracts for players like Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram limit their cap space, making a long-term deal financially challenging under NBA apron rules. Short-term contract appeal. With only 2 years left on his 4-year, $107 million deal, Barrett's contract is the shortest among Toronto's core players, providing flexibility that appeals to trade partners seeking non-long-term commitments. And we're looking at $27.7 million and the next year, $29.6 million. Now, value as an expiring contract after this season, 2026, 2027, represents his final year of his current deal, turning it into an expiring contract next year, which could reduce his trade value if not moved sooner, as acquiring team risks losing him for nothing in free agency. Salary matching for blockbuster deals. Barrett's $27 to $29 million annual salary makes him an ideal piece for salary matching in potential trades for high-profile stars like Anthony Davis or Ja Morant, just for example, allowing the Raptors to pursue upgrades without additional financial hurdles. Okay? And the last one, luxury tax and roster cost management. Retaining Barrett beyond his current contract could push the Raptors into luxury tax if a move isn't done somewhere else, into luxury tax territory, given their commitments to multiple players earning over $30 million annually, prompting trade discussions to manage overall payroll and avoid penalties. That is the tax. So that is a bit of information in regards to the contract situation. And I mean, you guys can let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are. Get into the comments. Tell me what you like about RJ Barrett, maybe some of the things you don't like. If there's anything that you don't like, do you think we should keep him? Do you think we should trade him? Do you think maybe we should look to move somebody else and free up money elsewhere? Let me know what your thoughts are on one RJ Barrett. I love me some RJ. But you know that MLSE does not want to go into the tax. And there are some contracts that are a bit iffy for the Toronto Raptors. And they're going to look to address that, which I can really understand. And, you know, another major factor is that we haven't discussed yet. And I'll bring this up quickly, even though I'm about to end the show really quick. We don't know what's Bobby Webster is capable of without one Masai Ujiri. We don't know what he's capable of yet by himself. We have to pay attention to that. Bobby Webster, he's a smart guy. He is a smart guy. But is he going to be different now that Masai Ujiri is not next to him? Absolutely he is. Absolutely he is. And you and I know that there are certain things that we want to see addressed. Damn it, they better get addressed. And that center position is one of them. He's going to have to cut salary somebody else. And yes, we talked about Pirtle, but it ain't just about Pirtle. It might have to be a bench piece as well. A lot of talk about Ochai Agbaji, which is most likely going to be him. If there's a deal for him, I'm sure they probably will be. What's going to happen in regards to picks? I'm not sure about that either as well. But things have to happen. The Raptors are going to have to take some risk. I don't know how much risk here at the trade deadline. Maybe it won't be a lot. Something is going to have to happen in the offseason. Something big is coming for the Raptors. I don't know what it's going to be. You might have to give up RJ Barrett, which I'm hoping they don't have to. But you guys can let me know what you think is going to happen. Give me your predictions. At Mike Roach 7 on IG, at Mike Roach 23 on X. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and share the Mike Roach Show. Hope everyone is enjoying their day. I'm snowed in, that's for sure. I'm not sure how the rest of you guys are. Like I mentioned last night with the game review I did with the Oklahoma City Thunder and Oklahoma City Thunder and the Raptors. There's just snow everywhere outside. And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Please. Mother Nature.
How do you do that? How do you do that? What the hell is going on?
Can you calm down, please? Can you calm down? Can you give us a bit of a break until we get to spring? We got about 2 months left of this crap. But anyways, we're alive, we're healthy. We're doing our damn thing. This is the Mike Roach Show. Until next time, the Raptors have a couple days off, by the way. And who are they playing come Wednesday? I don't know. But I'll check it for you right now and tell you before I get out of here. Oh, we got the Knicks. We got the Knicks at home on Wednesday night. That's a big one. Okay. That's exciting. But folks, until the next show, this is Mike Roach. Enjoy your day. I'm out.